You want to get better at guitar as fast as possible. So you picked some common and very popular exercises for your practice routine, either from private lessons, books, or YouTube videos. But no matter how hard you're practicing every single day, you don't really see a lot of improvement and you don't feel like you're actually getting better or closer to your big guitar goals. Sound familiar? This is not because you're not talented or you don't have what it takes. Often guitarists are simply practicing wrong. And this is not only frustrating, useless, and a huge waste of time and effort, it can actually also be dangerous and result in major injuries. If you have been playing guitar for a while now, I'm willing to bet that you practiced something like this before. So exercises in the chromatic or semi-chromatic scale from the 5th to the 8th fret are incredibly popular because this kind of framework is very easy to memorize. But one of the most popular exercises in guitar history, the so-called spider exercise, is often practiced in a completely wrong and very inefficient way. And when I saw this exercise for the very first time, my instinct was to attempt to play this as fast as possible, of course. But this is not what this exercise is about at all. There are much better picking exercises for speed and technique coming later in this video. So here's the main twist with this exercise. Now that I'm playing the next note on the A string, I'm allowed to lift my middle finger for that, but the other fingers stay in place. Now I can lift my ring finger to play the next note, and then the pinky. So a lot of people do get this critical part of the exercise right, not lifting your fingers until you need them on the next string. But what a lot of players are missing right here, or they simply can't do it yet, is that the notes are always supposed to overlap when you're playing this exercise. I can hear C, the note that I'm playing with my pinky finger on the E string, and D, the note that I'm playing with my index finger on the A string. The reason why you want this dissonance is not because it sounds particularly great. It's because you're making sure that your fingers are always curled like this, so that the notes can overlap. If you would play like this, for example, you're blocking the B string with your pinky finger, so it's essentially impossible to play this exercise with bad finger technique, because you won't hear those overlapping notes. The reason why this is so effective and so important to practice is that your finger technique will improve dramatically over just a couple of weeks if you practice like this. So it will be much easier to keep your fingers close to the fretboard when you're playing. And once a curled finger technique like this becomes the default motion for you, you won't struggle with hammer-ons and pull-offs anymore. So even if you're not practicing this exercise very fast, your speed and your finger control will get much better because you're massively improving your technique in general when you play this slow and correct. If you want to give it a try in your next practice routine already, I made some really helpful exercise video play-alongs, tabs, guitar profiles and backing tracks for you on Patreon. Another very important daily practice topic is improvisation. And this is one that I got wrong myself for a very long time. A lot of players work on this by just looking for a backing track on YouTube. And of course it's awesome to just start jamming and having fun. But some of the most common complaints I keep hearing are: I always play the exact same licks when I'm improvising. I practice improvisation every single day, but I don't get any better at it. So what helped me the most with this is not just randomly improvising over my favorite jam tracks every day. The really awesome and very practical exercise I want to show you today is all about consciously sticking to a certain phrase or rhythmic pattern when you're improvising. Let's say you always have to play this pattern, but you're not allowed to just repeat the same idea or phrase. You have to play something new and interesting in every single measure, but you're not allowed to break out of this rhythmic pattern for your entire take. Your timing will improve a lot because you're forced to stick to this rhythmic sequence all the time. And you will finally also come up with some more interesting and unique ideas on the fly because you're forcing yourself to change your approach with every single lick. And doing this for 15 to 20 minutes each day will bring you much better results than just hours of random improvisation. So if one of these tips already helped you or inspired you for your next practice routine, make sure to join our progress-driven guitar community here on YouTube today by subscribing, because I upload videos like this every single week, and it would be a shame if you missed the one that would have solved your biggest guitar frustration at the moment. So let's talk about picking technique and picking exercises next. So the thing that a lot of players, including myself in the past, get wrong with practicing picking exercises in their routines is always focusing on exercises with a specific amount of notes per string. So for example, 2 note per string pentatonic workouts, or the classic 3 note per string workouts, or even something more advanced like the really cool 7 note per string exercise. Those are all really cool and very effective picking exercises, but in a practical context you will actually have to switch between different and very odd groups on multiple strings, and exercises with a strict amount of repeating notes per string won't really prepare you for that. I was learning this the hard way when I was working on the first single of my most recent album, Elevation. It's a really challenging modern guitar interpretation of one of Paganini's most difficult pieces. When I was arranging this legendary piece of music for guitar, I had to do a lot of tricky string transitions with my alternate picking, and that's when I figured out that you can't always just practice 2 note per string lines or 3 note per string lines or 5 note per string lines and so on. You absolutely have to practice some mixed pattern workouts in your routine, and this one that I adapted from my arrangement of the Paganini Caprice is a great starting point. Up next, sweep picking. So sweep picking exercises are also a very common cause of frustration for many guitar players. So allow me to show you what made this technique click for me.
Sweep.
One of the worst mistakes I made with my sweep picking exercises at the start was just practicing them very slow with a big focus on perfection right away. Only practicing in these tempos is also a mistake that I keep seeing in the Patreon VIP Facebook group. In this one I'm coaching students every single day, and what I constantly keep seeing with sweep picking is this. Make sure to watch my picking hand. So when you're starting out with this, you're mostly just playing downstrokes or upstrokes for every single string. But this is obviously really inconvenient to speed up, and you want to go for a motion like this with sweep picking. So when I'm playing fast, it looks like this, and not like this. And it's really hard to get a feeling for this kind of flowing and effortless motion when you're just practicing very slow. So the absolute fastest way how I learned to do this, I was challenging myself with very fast tempos in my practice routine right away, sounding very sloppy.
Terrible.
So pretty bad and very unmusical. But I did get a much better understanding of how my picking hand is supposed to move. I finally started seeing some quick and awesome results with my sweep picking technique. And since another really big mistake with sweep picking exercises is just working on 1 or 2 shapes all the time, I put together a speed burst workout for you with 4 very important shapes: minor, major, diminished and augmented. Working on this over the next couple of weeks will really help you out with your sweep picking technique. Alright, up next, music theory. This topic is on the list because most players don't work on music theory at all in their practice routines. We mostly associate this with studying books, looking at scale diagrams, or trying to memorize and understand the circle of fifths.
I don't get it.
But music theory is something that you can and definitely should actively practice in your routine. So let's say you want to write and improvise much better guitar solos. A great and actually quite easy way of getting there is just learning how to spontaneously accent chord changes. And even if you're not really into jazz at all, a really great way of practicing this is just looking up random lead sheets of jazz standards and just taking the first 4 chords or the first 8 chords, and then you focus on playing the root, 3rd, 5th and 7th of each chord, and you're playing this sequence ascending for the first chord, descending for the next chord, and so on. So for example, if you see a B flat minor 7th chord in the sheet, you need to play the root, minor 3rd, perfect 5th and minor 7th. So for example, root, minor 3rd, perfect 5th, minor 7th. Or another example, an E flat major chord. For this one you have to play the root, major 3rd, perfect 5th and major 7th. So let's do it descending, starting with the major 7th. So major 7th, perfect 5th, major 3rd and the root. And here's the example cadence exercise I prepared for you on Patreon. this one is a bit too advanced for you right now, I'd recommend starting out with learning and visualizing the notes on your fretboard first in your routine. Of course, I also made a course for this on Patreon called Fretboard Mastery. Alright, time for a very popular topic, speed exercises and how to practice playing faster. So the most common practice mistake with building speed is just taking the same exercises each day and practicing them 2, 3, 4 or 5 beats per minute faster each day until you eventually reach your dream tempo in just a couple of weeks. But if you have been playing and practicing for a while now, you know that this is sadly not how it works.
It's not that easy.
Also assuming that bigger and more brutal movements result in more speed is also false, and practicing this way is actually very dangerous. It can lead to serious injuries like tendonitis if you overdo it. You can play very fast and very relaxed at the same time, and I can really recommend it. So first of all, just like with sweep picking, I can really recommend practicing outside your comfort zone when it comes to alternate picking. I started out building my technique with short bursts on just one string. And so on. And then I was slowly connecting those bursts with my fretting hand. And at the beginning I was never afraid of sounding sloppy while I was doing this. It can sound pretty terrible when you first start pushing for those higher tempos.
That sounds terrible.
But please remember that you're actually supposed to sound bad in your practice routine, because if you always sound absolutely perfect when you're practicing, chances are you're not really pushing yourself at all, and that means you're also not really getting any better. So if building speed with your alternate picking technique and also with your fretting hand technique is currently on your practice list, I really recommend the following quite tricky speed burst exercise. This one is composed in an odd meter, 7/4, so that forces you to focus on your timing as well. And there are 3 different blocks in every measure. The first one is quite easy, basically just tremolo picking on one string. The second one is a bit harder because of the string transition. And the third one is extremely hard because you're just playing one note on the higher string and then go back to the lower string. That is one of the most difficult string transitions you can include in your practice routine. I really hope that I could make your upcoming practice routines much more effective with this video. Don't forget to download all of your exercise files that are made especially for you right now on patreon.com/Bernd. And I will see you again in the next video. I think this one is a great choice if you're into guitar technique, so make sure to check that one out next. Have fun shredding. See you soon. Bye bye.